I was training finger endurance today. Nothing dramatic, no music, no rush, just time under tension. And at some point, I noticed something quietly interesting happening. Thoughts were appearing, fully formed, and then dissolving on their own. They rose into view, hovered briefly, and then disappeared. I didn't push them away, I didn't follow them, I simply kept training. Some of the thoughts were trivial, some were unsorted, and some were familiar. This is boring. You've done enough. You should probably stop now. These are not unusual thoughts. They show up almost every time I train. But today, instead of engaging with them, I watched them come and go. And it struck me that this is what people often gesture towards when they talk about a quiet mind. Not a mind without thoughts, but a mind no longer compelled to obey them. I wasn't meditating, but the effect was unmistakably similar. Over time, I've noticed a pattern. When I'm on the edge of something meaningful, when I'm close to finishing a project, or sending a hard climb, or breaking through a plateau, my mind almost always begins to question the entire endeavour. Why am I doing this? Is this worth it? What if I just stopped? Curiously, these questions tend to arrive not at the beginning, but right before resolution, right before progress. Often the hardest day, the day that feels pointless, flat, or heavy, turns out to be the final day before a breakthrough. It's as though the mind administers one last test, not through pain or fear alone, but through doubt, boredom, and narrative, through the quiet suggestion that disengagement would be reasonable, sensible even. And that's where things become interesting, because in those moments, thinking is not neutral. Thinking becomes an off switch. One of the most reliable ways I've found to make progress, in climbing and sometimes in work, is to simply do the thing. Not to analyse it, not to optimise it, not to debate whether I feel like it. Just to do it. There's a peculiar honesty in that, because once you stop negotiating with the mind, much of its resistance loses momentum. The thought to stop may still appear, but it's no longer in charge. And this reveals something important. Not every thought is a command. Some are merely weather. They pass, if you let them. There's another distinction hiding underneath all of this. Some things in life require motivation. They need encouragement. They need discipline, reminders, and reinforcement. And then there are things that don't. For me, climbing falls into the second category. I don't need to train the will to do it. I don't need to talk myself into it. I don't need to justify it. Frankly, I don't even pay all that much attention to it. It simply is. There's a difference between something you want to do and something you need to do. Something that feels intrinsic, marrow deep. When that distinction is present, the struggle changes shape. The pursuit doesn't coerce you. It doesn't bargain. It doesn't flatter or insult you. It simply waits. And when you show up, it meets you there. None of this is free. Giving yourself fully to anything carries a cost, physical, psychological, and often social. There is fatigue. There is sacrifice. There is discomfort. But those costs are strangely light when they're aligned with something essential. They are paid with a kind of quiet acceptance, even gratitude, because the alternative, the cost of not committing, is far heavier. That cost shows up later in the form of regret, in the persistent question of what if, in the erosion of self-respect that comes from repeatedly stepping away at the threshold. When you know your reason is strong enough, the difficulty becomes secondary, manageable, even meaningful. So when the mind says stop, the question isn't whether the thought is true. The question is whether it deserves authority. Sometimes stopping is wise. Sometimes it's necessary. This is not about blind persistence. But sometimes, often in fact, the thought to stop is simply a reflex, a protective impulse misfiring in the presence of growth. And if you stay long enough, without arguing, without dramatizing, without obeying, something subtle happens. The thought dissolves, and what remains is clarity. Not euphoria, not triumph, just the next move. And that is often enough. There's a moment, and it's quiet, when you realize you don't have to act on every thought. The mind will continue to speak. It will offer commentary, warnings, objections, and escape routes. That doesn't stop. The difference is that you stop treating every thought as a directive. You learn to distinguish between a signal and a story. Some signals matter. Pain matters, fatigue matters, risk matters. But much of what urges you to stop is not wisdom, it's habit. It's protection running on old assumptions. And when you don't immediately obey, something changes. The thought completes its arc. It rises, peaks, and dissolves. And you're still there. Not straining, not forcing, just present. What remains in that space is often simpler than expected. Not certainty, not confidence, just the next movement, the next breath, the next decision made without drama. This is not about conquering the mind. It's about no longer being governed by it, especially in moments that matter. And over time, this practice of staying begins to reach beyond training or climbing. It shows up in work, in difficult conversations, in moments of doubt or uncertainty where the impulse to withdraw feels convincing. You learn that staying is not stubbornness. It's clarity under pressure. And sometimes, staying long enough for the thought to pass is all that's required to discover that you were capable all along. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. If this video resonated with you, please like and subscribe to this channel. It would really help to spread my message. Thank you for supporting my work, and take care out there in the daring unknown.